Hi, welcome to the Second Wind Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Gonsalves. Now, today's episode is a bit different. It's the 100th episode of the Second Wind Academy, and it's also been taken over by Unite. Now, one of the bits that's most interesting for me today is the guests on the show. We've got Allana Ferguson, who is a dual international player and is also an awesome TV personality in the world of sport here in Australia. And I've got Jeremy Latimore, a 15-season veteran in the NRL, who has since transitioned into mortgage broking and into Unite itself. So today's session, all about that career transition. Have a listen, it's going to be a good one. Allana, Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, mate.
Yeah, how good, thank you.
Absolute pleasure. I'm glad you're on here because, as I was saying, this is a very special edition. We are at the 100th episode of the Second Wind Academy podcast, but this one is even more special because it's been taken over by Unite, who are indeed uniting the dream for athletes and their brand. So today, we're going to cover your transitions through sport and into your life after sport. But I also know there's going to be some great stories that we're going to get out of this, which are going to help a lot of athletes who are going to be listening today. So, again, thanks for being open, giving me your time.
Yeah, mate, I didn't know it was the 100th episode, so I feel extra special now.
There we go.
Mind you, I did replace Louis, so I've come off the bench late.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Strong finish.
Sure, like my football career off the bench.
There we go. A strong finisher, indeed. So, let's get into it because I'm really curious. You know, what you're up to today. So, Allana, we'll kick off with yourself. So, tell us, what's going on?
A lot. Currently an NRL commentator for the men's game, NRLW for the women's, and then I also do rugby union. So, for both men's and women's. We do a fair bit of men's, though, at the moment. So, like Super Rugby, and then it goes into all the test matches and stuff. So, between the two, I also do a little bit of radio, and I've got a couple of kids at home.
Yes.
Other than that, pretty boring.
I think that's kind of action-packed. I quite like that.
Yeah, it's full on. I love it.
Yeah, keeps you on your toes. And you're living down the coast, that's right?
Yeah, we live down the coast. Near family, I need help between my husband and I. He's got like a normal 9-to-5 job. And I'm pretty MIA from Thursday through to Sunday. So grandparents come in handy, certainly, with the kids. Yeah. And just enjoying the chaos.
Sweet as. Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of normal 9-to-5 description. I think we'll step into that a little bit. I've got a bit of experience in that, unfortunately, as well. But let's say from you, what's going on nowadays for you?
Man, I'm doing a few things. Since I've retired, I've been working with the Dragons in the commercial team. That's been the one constant. And recently merged a few businesses sort of together, which you're now involved in as well. So that's Unite. So I was doing mortgage broking with Oxygen Home Loans. So that's come under that umbrella. LCI Sports, which Allana was involved in, and yourself and Luke Lewis. Merged that under the umbrella, and then the other part of it, there's about actually four parts that have come under that now as well, which I won't touch on because I'll confuse myself.
I like that. I think you always like to keep yourself on the go.
Correct.
Yeah.
And about to start a podcast as well.
About to start another podcast.
Yeah.
This is it. We're doing cross-podcast promotion.
Correct. I love chatting, mate.
Yeah.
So I think that space will suit me and the crew I'm with.
That's it.
Love a yarn.
Yeah, beauty. Well, we will keep the conversation flowing here as well. I'm curious now. Clearly, for both of you, rugby has been an important part. But Allana, perhaps kicking off with yourself, what was sport like for you growing up?
Everything, to be honest. I started playing league when I was 4. Played with the boys up until I was 12. Obviously, throughout that period, I played other sports. Like, I'd played everything under the sun, except for netball. Mm-hmm. Our footy coach, when I was a kid, said, like, if we played bad or trained shit, he'd be like, that's it, you can all wear netball skirts to training next week. So that was ingrained in me from a young age not to play netty. But anyway, I played every sport under the sun. Yeah. I've always loved footy, like touch footy, Oztag, massive fan of that once it kicked off. But rugby league was literally my whole world. I've got 3 brothers, so we'd play like knee footy in the lounge room, and we had a pretty cool backyard as well. We'd be out and about 24/7. It was just like in my blood from the get-go. Loved it, my whole world. But then once I turned 12, because I played footy with the boys, I was the only girl. until my last year, actually. I played with one of my best mates to this day, Georgie Brooker. But yeah, I was the only girl that whole time. So it was great. Honestly, like I know there's so many different opportunities now and girls have different pathways and opportunities, which is incredible. But for me, it was normal and I loved it.
At what point did it start to get serious, or when did you start to realise, hold on, I'm
Mate,
good at this?
I'm so competitive. Knee footy in the lounge room was serious for me. Like, I hate losing anything. I don't know. I just loved footy forever. Like I used to sleep with, I think it was like a Nutri-Grain footy. It was like a soft one in my bed from a young age. Would get in trouble all the time for wearing my footy boots to bed because they were obviously filthy. But serious, we won I remember being the year before I had to stop playing, and I remember constantly thinking, this sucks that I've only got one more year, because whilst I played other sports, league was the one sport that I loved more than anything. And I remember like it feeling quite real that I had to stop playing soon, which really sucked. But in my last year of footy, we actually moved from the Shire down the coast. And I wasn't going to play club footy. I think my parents were pretty happy to like not push me. And my older brother, or I think, a couple of my brothers were playing for the Butchers, the Rural Butchers. And I just turned up at their training and was passing the footy with Dad while they were sort of doing their thing. And someone from the club went up to my dad and they were like, she needs to play. And he was like, oh yeah, she's played footy her whole life. She just hasn't really been pushing it. Because I was like, how old would I have been? Like 11 or 10 or 11. And I was in a new suburb. You're sort of old enough to be a bit nervous about that sort of stuff. And anyway, they asked me, I started playing with the boys and we were on. So we won that comp for the Butchers and our school team won state schoolboys knockout. Yeah. So that was probably the only like serious year because, but then also that was my last year of playing with the boys. So it was awesome, but pretty devastating at the end of it.
Yeah. So what comes next then? How did you continue playing?
I didn't play league again until I was an adult.
Yep.
I played touch footy and Oztag, and I didn't really love touch that much. I loved Oztag, which is quite similar to league in terms of, just the style of play and stuff. So I still played every sport under the sun. I do pretty much give anything a crack to have a day off school, like most sporty kids, which I scanned that. 100%.
I think you can.
Cricket, I'll play that for New South Wales, 100%. Gave AFL a crack. That was fun. I used to get in so much trouble for tackling though. But I survived. But I was devastated. I didn't watch NRL for a couple of years because I thought it was so unfair that I couldn't play.
Well, it kind of is, right?
Definitely.
100%.
You lose a big chunk of people by not being able to, by stopping the ability to play. I mean, for you though, what was it like for you growing up? Did you have a similar thing where 11, 12 people were telling you got to stop playing?
No, I was very different to Allana. I wasn't that passionate about rugby league. So I played soccer till I was about 9, and then my best mates at school were playing league. So I transitioned across, started playing footy, and obviously I was a big kid. But I actually ended up having a year off when I was 15 I was a bit of a rat bag as a kid too. I went bodyboarding. Just
as a kid?
Yeah. Mate, you wouldn't believe it. Now I'm sweet.
You wouldn't believe it. I reckon I would.
I'm really on the straight and narrow now. But so I had a year off when I was 15, and funny, I was just talking to the kids on the way here. So my son's asked me, do you ever win back-to-back like premierships as a kid? Because I think I lost under 10s, won under 11s and 12s, maybe 13s. We lost 14. I had the year off. They won it in 15s, then I lost 16, 18. So when I come back at 16 after I realised bodyboarding wasn't really a sport that I was going to excel at, got the wheels back on the footy career, and I started sort of doing weights, and I started to love my footy a bit more. My first year of under 18s, I was playing off the bench. Like I was playing off the bench in my Port Macquarie side, and then that next off season's when like the fire got lit under me butt, and I started going hard. My mate who had signed with Cronulla at a young age, his dad had to ask me to come down to. They used to do like coaching camps in the school holidays, and off that they wanted to sign me. Yeah. And I was just explaining this to my son in the car. So Theo Burgess was the recruitment guy, and I go, nah, I don't want to sign. I go, I want to make Australian schoolboys. Karma, popped my shoulder, had to get a shoulder reconstruction. Tail between the legs went back, and thankfully they still signed me. Otherwise, I might not. Yeah, so lucky.
That's cool.
And then me young blokes like, so if I get an offer, we take it early. Yeah.
Take whatever you can get.
But I go, look, that was my advice from my father. I'll be giving you better advice than my father. Yeah.
Don't negotiate. Just say, thank you, appreciate it.
Done. First offer. But so that's sort of how I fell into footy. But I honestly didn't take it serious until that sort of last pre-season before my under-18 year.
Right.
And I didn't play many games.
No. So, well, at that same time, and you touched on school as well, what was school for you during that period?
Oh, mate, my high school
scam.
wasn't a great high school. Yeah. My high school wasn't a great high school up there. I bet. Westport High School. So, there was some degenerates in that school, and some of my mates were rat bags. And
so you fit. So we get that you fitted in well.
Yeah, no,
That's cool. That's clear. Yeah.
But I had my mum who, she sort of rode me hard to make sure I did my schoolwork and got that done. But I've always been a little bit ADHD, so I was not very good at focusing.
So for you, sport kind of was nearly always going to be the output?
I think I want to be a marine biologist at one point. And now that I reflect on that, I actually can't imagine me being a marine biologist. But look, if football wasn't an option, I don't know. And because then later on I ended up going to university and getting a uni degree. But I often talk to young kids like at the gym or whatever, and I'm like, how when you're 19 you're expected to choose your career for
100%. It's full on, hey?
It's crazy. There shouldn't... You got to find your way in the world. And I was lucky enough, I had rugby league to work out what I wanted. And my ex-wife, she was like, she's really smart, got a great job. Yeah. And she sort of pushed me into uni, which I'm very grateful for. Yeah. Not that I use that degree now, but it taught me discipline, hard work, getting shit done.
Yeah. But, I mean, talk about finding your way. So for you playing in women's rugby at that time, how did you find your way into the game?
Do you mean when I was a kid?
Yeah. As you got older?
As I got older?
Yeah.
So I kept playing sport right the way through, touch footy and Oztag mostly, in terms of like reps. And from an Oztag tournament over in New Zealand, it was about 18 months before the rugby sevens was going to the Olympics, the first one in Rio. And they just went, Rugby Australia or whoever it was, just went and scouted at different sports and got a whole heap of people in. So you obviously had women's rugby and women's rugby sevens, but it wasn't massive yet, and they needed to elevate the program. So they went everywhere. They went to like nippers and got the beach sprinters and volleyball, netball, good hand-eye coordination. They came to Oztag, heaps from touch footy. I reckon touch footy and rugby sevens are really similar in terms of the product. Anyway, they came to tag. I think it was when we were over playing the Kiwis or something, and just asked me if I wanted to come and try rugby sevens ahead of obviously the Olympics, and they were starting the scouting process, and I was like, I'll give it a crack.
That's pretty cool.
So that's how it sort of kicked off.
That's mad, eh?
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you playing recreationally, and then someone just comes in, taps you on the shoulder, do you want to try and go to the Olympics? I'd have loved that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. Well, it was actually a little bit of a tricky decision at the time because women's rugby league, so I was living down the coast still, and we had a team, we had a couple of local teams, and some of my mates were starting to play again. The chick that I spoke about before, my mate Georgie, she was starting to play for Helensburgh, and she was like, come and play with us. And I was like, do I go play league for Helensburgh Tigers, or do I jump in and get into these training camps and try and give sevens a crack? And I swear to God, I lost sleep over it. Like, I truly didn't know, because I love league.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I love league. And I was like, far out, man. Like, I was one of those kids that watched Kathy Freeman and wanted to go to the Olympics. Like, I went and bought her fluoro spikes. I'm like, I'll just go, like, stuff this. I'm going to the Olympics. So anyway, and it was still footy. Had never played rugby union a day in my life before. So yeah, I gave it a crack, jumped in, went to a heap of camps. They sort of just had like heaps of camps at all these private schools around Sydney, and each time they'd drop however many people, and we just play game after game against one another, do some skills and learn how to like clear a ruck and whatnot. But we pretty much just played footy like a couple of weekends a month, and it just kept culling down, and I ended up playing, which was cool.
It's very cool. We're going to come to sort of what that meant. I'm interested though. What did you have to give up? So you were playing touch, but what was during the day? What else was happening for you?
I was just at uni at the time, so not a lot. Chicks footy, like chicks sport when I was playing.
Just at uni.
But women's sport when I was playing was like that, and it's sort of only just starting to change a little bit now, particularly the sports that I've been involved with, like in terms of like different codes of footy, but you have other jobs. So it's, you have your weekend training, particularly your camps, and then you're expected to do gym in the morning. So like, so you do gym in the morning, like 4 or 5 a.m., whatever that is, go to work for the day, or I was at uni at the time. And then you do your extra sessions. So like we'd go to Moore Park a couple of times a week, and you do that in the night. And then, that was normal.
So, and for you then, moving from you know, this aspiration of being a rugby player to actually getting in professionally. What was that like for you?
So my first year in Sydney, I just was in Jersey Flag. Then my second year, I actually got to train with the NRL team. But I loved it.
Yeah.
And I come back a little bit overweight after my first off season, so I had like 10 kilo to lose. But
how's that? How's that a little bit overweight?
Yeah, a little bit overweight. But no,
It's like coming back from having a baby.
I know, and you look at me now, like there's not. I can't generally put that much weight on, but I think I was having like a loaf of bread a day, and there's a fair bit of alcohol over the off season too.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoyed it. Like I've always enjoyed the training part of rugby league.
Yeah.
More so the running, the weights I wasn't massive on when I played footy. I love weights now. Yeah. But yeah, no, I love. I often like, and especially probably the last 5 years of my career, like I was always so grateful and try to bring the energy to training every day because it's the best job in the world. It's actually the best job in the world. And again, I wasn't like I want to play footy when I was young, but I always loved rugby league.
Yeah.
And then to be able to do that for the period of time I did, and still be involved in rugby league now, like I often pinch myself.
Yeah. I mean, what I love about the two of you is that you've got those in life who grow up with this passion of being, you know, professional, making it part of their world in terms of sport.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that comes from a very early age. What you're describing, Lats, is this sort of followed my interest, played the game because, well, actually I just enjoyed playing. Yeah. It was good without that view as to where it would take you. Yeah. And it then sounds, you were certainly very appreciative of, wow, I've made it. I've got then that opportunity, you know, and I love the fact it started from interest. Yeah. You know, it wasn't that born passion. For you, on the other hand, Allana, it's quite different. It was a passion to want to go ahead and do it, but the opportunities just weren't there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you sort of came in, I guess you latched onto those opportunities being created. You were part of that first wave coming through of, well, starting to recognise the importance of the game for women, but also the entertainment value as well.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I still, to this day, I think I've been retired for like 6 odd years or something. I still, to this day, fall asleep sometimes thinking about playing a game of footy. Like I dead set love it that much. It's tragic, and I've never been any different. I was yelled at most nights by my mum that dinner was on the table, put the footy down, got in trouble at school for kicking the footy up the hallway, like just stuff like that. Never been any different. But the thing I love about women's sport, like up until this sort of point, is that pretty much what you're saying, like I sort of have always been involved in teams where we play because we love it, because we have never expected and never actually got anything for playing. So I think that's one of the really valuable things that, and they still have it to this day. Like NRLW players in rugby league are obviously getting paid to play, but certainly not an amount that they can get ahead by just yet. They're quite close, and there's a few marquee players that are doing incredibly well for themselves, but long term they're getting paid an amount of money and they're like, holy heck, this is sick. Because obviously you're used to paying for whatever you play, and you play because you love it. But I love that aspect that you're playing. You know that your teammates are there because they love the game as much as you do, and that's all they want to do. They're not there as a job, really. So I don't know. I think also that's one of the important things to hold on to for women's sport, because it is so different moving forward, is just trying to keep that passion for the game and not have, you know, the talented athletes that just sort of want to do it for the money, because it's I don't know, it's just such a big key, particularly when you're playing a contact sport. Like if you've got someone on the field that genuinely would die for you and put their body on the line, like, you know, you're going to be all right at the end of the day, don't you? Like 100%. That's all you need. Like you're playing rugby league, rugby union, whatever it is, a contact sport, you need the person either side of you and everyone else in the lineup to want to do absolutely everything they can for you and the team to win that game. And I think that's something special that women's sports always had, certainly when I've been playing, is that we never got it like much, anything really, for doing it, but we were there because we loved it.
I reckon sometimes now you see some, in the males game, people who literally play rugby league because of obviously the money.
Mate,
and they love the social media stuff. They're more social media stars and care more about that and their following and how they look than going out to battle every week with your best mates. Yep.
I've heard a few names thrown up about the women's though, in terms of that changing, and that's just one thing that I'm like, it is what it is. I guess that's life, and those people find them, like they get found out eventually.
You will,
but
you're 100%.
100%, but yeah, it's something special that women's sports never really had to consider to this point. Obviously, we want women to get paid for what they're
Yeah.
doing, because
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
really important. But yeah, I just think that's something nice that sort of is held within those games that, I'd like for that to stay there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's got to be a support structure that comes in to make sure there remains an enjoyment for the game, but also balancing out the money, the flow, the fame
100%.
that comes in, so that, well, people can actually also concentrate, or the athletes can concentrate on what's important, which is playing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's been a few AFL, like men's AFL players in the last few years retire quite young because they weren't enjoying the game anymore, mental health, or they had other passions.
Yeah.
Which, that's honourable.
Yeah.
Oh,
To be
yeah,
able to,
I love
step away
that.
from the game,
Yeah.
because you need to be all in.
That's it.
Love
Yeah.
that.
You
Or
can't- you
even
can't have your toe in.
Even Kiri came out, when was it? A couple, like not that long ago, saying
Yeah.
that he's going to stop playing before his contract's up, like that.
Yeah.
If you're not 100% in it, then you know you're going to be letting your teammates down.
Yeah.
That's I admire that more than
Merrin,
anything.
he
Exactly.
did it actually. He
Trent-
left early,
Yeah.
because he wasn't enjoying it anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We
exactly.
see it a lot in sports. Certainly, think in football or soccer, you see a lot of athletes, certainly overseas, where you see they'll pull out, and famously we'll have tennis players, gymnasts coming through
exactly.
as well, who are like, do you know what? I think I'm done. I've done what I can.
Ash Barty.
Yeah. You know.
How much
Yeah,
more?
I know,
How
at the
much
top-
more
yeah.
money could she have made? Like,
Yeah, true.
who knows? But she chose
Yeah.
to have a family. Like,
Yeah.
She was
go
still at the
girl.
top of her game.
She was
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
at the top. She could have done anything,
Yeah.
and she chose. She knew within herself what she wanted to do. Like,
Yeah.
I love
That's
that shit.
huge. Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it talks then about how long you want to stay in the game, and for you, lads, what was it, 16, 17 years professionally in the game?
11 years playing, but
Yeah.
I did probably 15 pre-seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to count those.
Yeah.
Don't disregard the
Correct.
preseason, mate. Far
It's like
out.
because I loved pre-season so
Yeah.
much, I just did it for the fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I love pre-season. There's no pressure. You just go into training, you're getting flogged, you're getting fit, you're feeling good.
I like that. What
Yeah.
interesting again, you're prepared to put in the effort. Now,
Yeah.
what is fascinating and across those years is again that shift. So we talk about that desire to keep playing.
Yeah.
And so for you, it wasn't like you were just with one club,
Yeah.
but you actually shifted clubs throughout that.
Yeah.
Talk us, what was that like, changing clubs?
Yeah, well, my first change was from Cronulla to Parramatta. That was all right, but then massive cultural shift going from Parramatta to New Zealand, and
In what way?
just obviously the mixture of cultures. But we had the best group of boys over there. We had a great sprinkling of good boys from Australia. Then you have all your Islander cultures. We had Omar Slimenko, who was Afghanistanian.
Yeah.
So it was just a great crew we had over there. And I think boys ended up making the grand final in 2011, and Ivan was the coach back then. But that ended up being like a couple of the funnest years I had.
Yeah.
But early on, the transitioning was hard. But by the time I'm 26, I knew half the people across the NRL because I might have played with them, or and you build them relationships away from rugby league.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's interesting, is that building of relationships away from league, but also forging it with the players or those who you're competing with.
Yeah.
So when you did move clubs, and a few times, was there anything that was consistently hard? It was always difficult to do one particular thing?
I think the good thing of changing clubs is you're always trying to prove yourself. And I can't say that's the reason I kept changing clubs, because often I was unwanted, or, a club would release me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I went for opportunity.
Yeah.
But I love the fact it always kept me honest, and I was always trying to prove myself to the coaches and my teammates.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think there's anything I look at, because I love talking, as you know, and meeting new people. So that part of it I love. But
fell into your favour. In fact, it meant you had to meet new people.
Correct. And now, post rugby league, my network is helping me build my post rugby league career, which we'll touch on later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting. Now, for you though, shifting codes, again, even more of a cultural shift and an outlook shift in many respects. What did you find hard about that?
I think when I started playing sevens, it was tricky because it was so foreign to me. Like, I was literally learning rules, meeting new people. Same thing, like trialing. Literally every weekend was a trial to make it to the next stage, which I ended up playing, representing Australia. But yeah, probably just the combination of so many new aspects constantly. The travel was quite different because I've never really travelled much. Well, we did go to New Zealand a lot for OzTag, but outside that, like, it was all just interstate.
course.
So
Yeah.
a little bit different. And then I came back to league after. So I did my knee playing rugby sevens. We were over in China, did my knee, and as soon as I was on the ground, I knew that was the third time I'd done it, my ACL. And so as soon as I hit the deck, I knew it was my ACL straight away. And all I could think about, like I remember it as well as anything, being in this massive stadium in the middle of the ground, I hit the deck and I was like, hell yeah, I can't wait to play rugby league.
I thought you were going to say you were done.
Nah. Yeah, immediately. I was on the deck and like I could feel my eyes welling up because I was devastated. Obviously, I knew that I've got 12 months ahead of me, all the rest of it, this, that and the other. But seriously, all that was going through my head was, I'm going to play league. Like, cannot wait. Was so glad that I gave rugby sevens like a crack and gave like that opportunity a go because it was so new, so different. Like the games are so different. Like we think they're quite similar because similar shaped ball, whatever, but far out, man, it was so different. Very different environment as well because they took quite a professional approach as to what I was ever used to. Like I played footy as a kid and then I went and played touch and Ozdag. Like,
how did you find that shift to more professionalism?
Yeah, I loved it. I'm a bit the same as Lats. Like I love training. I love being competitive and we played a fair bit of footy, so I really enjoyed it.
Rugby's put in your head where you wouldn't put your foot.
Yeah.
Getting in them ruck and mauls and
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair, we did have to play a little bit of 15s.
Yeah.
But it was, I think, just to qualify.
Yeah. How'd you find that?
I was fly half. I didn't.
Oh, perfect.
I'm a ball player, mate. Yeah. I didn't get in there too often. Only when there was an opportunity to sort of pick and go and have a crack. But yeah, no, I was out of that. No cauliflower ears over here.
No.
Yeah,
do you know, it's fascinating. You're hearing you there at that point of injury. You're the first person, this being the 100th episode, clearly spoken to a lot of athletes, had to deal with injury. You're the first person who's come back at that point of injury and thought, God, I can't wait to play another game. It's like you've got something else to
but
live
it was
for.
a game that I've loved for as long as I can remember. And I still, like as I said to you before, like I was losing sleep over what to do, play club league or give sevens a crack, and I'm really glad I gave sevens a crack. Like I got goosebumps running out on the field playing for Australia, but at the end of the day it took me to get to that injury, and I also knew the recovery that I had ahead. Like I knew I had a long 12 months, but it took that injury to be like, you know what, I love rugby league more than anything in this world. I'm glad I poured my heart and soul into playing sevens, and they wanted me to stay in the program. Like they wanted me to do my rehab there and stay within the sevens program. It was around that time where they were doing the LARS. Do you remember when they did the LARS ACL?
Correct, yeah.
So they were,
that's the dead body one, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was a quick fix.
Yeah. Right.
So instead of it taking 9 to 12 months, it was like 3 to 4 months, but they didn't really have much proof that they held very long. But it was a quick fix to play, potentially, stay in the program, but to play at the Olympics. And I was like, nah, don't want to borrow it. I'm taking the 12-month approach. I'm going to train my ass off and I'm going to go play rugby league. And I did, like the day I could, I was playing league.
Back.
Oh, yeah.
What was hard about that injury period for you?
To be honest, my first 2 recos were really tricky. I did my first one when I was 15 and like my whole life fell apart. And then my next knee ACL I did when I was just before I turned 18. That one rocked me the most, I think, because I knew that it was such a long period. Also, like an 18-year-old girl that really, I stayed out of trouble as a teenager because I love sport and I always had sport on the next day. But yeah, that one rocked me. I was a nightmare. I wouldn't have wanted to be related to me or... you're nicer to your mates than you are to your family. Like, couldn't imagine of living with me at that.
Hiding at
oh,
home.
mate, my poor mum too. Like, couldn't do anything right. I was a victim throughout that 12-month period for sure. My third one, completely different story.
What was different?
Well, I was a little bit older, early 20s, but as I said, like I was at uni, had an education, and I knew what I needed to do. I went back I found like the best exercise physiologist. I was still living down the coast, but in Cronulla, you know Justin Lang? Yeah. So I still played heaps of footy in the Shire. So many of my mates were always there anyway. So I started training with him to start my knee rehab because he's got a really good reputation with ACLs, and I was going there like 3 or 4 times a week in the beginning. And then it went to like most days. And then as soon as I finished uni, 3 days later, I moved to Cronulla to be close to like where I was training at the gym. I was nearly about to start playing footy again. I wanted to play there. Just heaps of my mates were there. So I just knew what I wanted to do and I knew how to get there. My surgeon told me after my second ACL, because I was so young and I'd done them back to back, he said, you should never play sport again. And I was like, yeah, sure, mate. No worries. And I ended up playing two more sports for Australia after that. Like, get stuffed, you've got no idea. So I don't know. I'm determined. Like I've got a pretty strong mind if I want to do something, but also at the end of the day, I just love footy and I knew how to get back there.
Yeah, that's good. Beautiful journey. Strong mentality as well. And, you know, thinking about, you know, yourself.
Talk to my husband about that. Not always ideal.
Sometimes gets in the way of, can we do it another way? No, this way or the highway. Yeah, I like that. I do. I'm interested though. Here, you know, you're talking about changing clubs, recognizing at times that's because they don't want you anymore.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Yeah, it's hard. It's pretty tough. And sometimes I don't know if my old manager was completely transparent on info I was getting. So that's obviously, it's an emotional time as well when you're off contract and you think your career's done. And I literally, what'd I go? 2-year deal, 1-year deal, 1-year deal, 2-year deal, 1-year deal.
That's so stressful.
Yeah, two. So yeah, nearly every year you're oh, far out. You get to about round 10, you're like, I'm gonna have to work this out again. Am I gonna get told I'm not wanted again? But I think the main thing I took from sport is, you know, get the no's to teach it. Like nothing worries me now. I'm so mentally strong, resilient. You know, and I was up and down for the first 50 games of my career. It took me 5 years, so I was up, down, and that was barely injury. Like it might have been a couple of games of injury, but it was just, I was 18th man about 15 times. And that was because I was inconsistent. I wasn't good enough. And then I barely missed a game the next 3 or 4 years from my 50th to my 150th.
Yeah. Do you know, it's amazing because we think of the life of a professional athlete to be this glorious dream. Yeah. You are, well, you know, your life's sorted, you play. I mean, you're talking about every year having to, fight for the income, for survival, not knowing what's going to happen next.
And even, I know Lana was just talking about some of the marquee players in the NRLW, and I know like some of the girls are getting paid. That's more than I got in my last 2 years at the Dragons. Like I was on minimum wage there. Well, actually, I might have got a 5K increase 2019. I was on 105,000.
They'll cover your coffee.
Yeah, exactly. But no, thankfully my wife, she was on a good income, so she could support me. Yeah.
So at what point during your career did you really start to think, this is it, I've got to do something else after rugby?
It was when I was at New Zealand. That's when I started a Bachelor of Business. So I was 20, what was I then? 24?
Was that with the aim of thinking what you'll do after sport?
Absolutely not. It was just, mate, because they paid a tertiary education allowance. So I'm like, I may as well make use of that in my contract. So the NRL was paying for me to, I know, 100%. And then I was a massive advocate for education because like we're talking about, you have so much spare time as a rugby league player. There's only so many pokers you can go press, so many horses you can go back, so many times you can go to a cafe and drink coffee, or go to the beach with your mate, or play PlayStation. It used to be FIFA back in the day. So at least I was proactively using my time to better myself for after rugby league. And it's created opportunities for me now, post rugby league. But I ended up finishing it in 2016 at the Panthers, and then Pepper Money were a sponsor of the club then. So I started going in and doing some work with them, which I found out the corporate world wasn't for me. But I didn't enjoy being in an office. And as you know, I don't sit still. I'm picking my phone up 400 times in a meeting. He just looks at me and I jump in and he goes, "Oi, one person at a time."
Give a bit of structure, that's all it is.
No, but you're helping me with that, and I've got to leave my phone in the other room now, so I don't pick it up for no reason. But so, you know, everything happened for a reason with me. And then when I come to the Dragons, so I left the Warriors, so I did maybe 2 subjects over there. Come to the Dragons, they had this program that they started where they allocated a tutor to help me do my work at Wollongong Uni. So graduates a league program, so they helped pretty well get me through.
That's gone.
Them and my
my
wife did most of my work when I was at uni.
Sweet.
Well, but then by the end I could do from start to finish on my own. But early days, not really. Early days, not really.
Well done. You were able to write that assignment yourself.
I could do assignments myself. I was always all right with the exams, but like in terms of sitting there and pumping out assignment, that wasn't for me.
But it's good that you're able to stick through it. You got the right support.
Correct.
Sort of team that sits around you to help you.
I'm great in a team environment. I'm a team
player.
Put
me in a team any day.
good halfback, giving me good ball and edge. Good answers.
Yeah, but it's key. So for you, it's a bit different, coming through the women's game as you were coming through.
For sure.
At what point did you start to think, well, is this just it? Do I have to do something else to supplement? Or was it something you had to do all the way
I
through?
always had to do that. Yeah. So like we were speaking about it a little bit before, it's so tricky at whatever age you are in high school, 17, 18, to choose what you want to do for the rest of your life. So for me, I went to a really great school. I actually really liked school. Like I was sort of one of those kids in class that could talk to 3 people around me and somehow get the work done. Oh no. Ask me that, like they'd ask me a question, I'd be able to just blabber it off even though I've been talking the whole time. But I loved it. I loved the social aspect of school. Went to a great school, so I had good support, particularly because I wasn't there so often, playing whatever the sport it was at the time.
Yeah.
But I always knew I had to have some kind of career, whatever it was. Just so happens to be at my school, I had an awesome PE teacher, and he was just one of those teachers that, you know, some people just get the best out of you. Like, and it's like coaches, right? Like some you just click with and you want to be a better person for them.
Yeah.
That was sort of like my PE teacher, and like, it didn't matter if it was outside, obviously the physical aspect, but PE is of course health as well. And yeah, he just made me think about, I always knew that I wanted to do something within sport.
Yeah.
And then having him as my teacher as, what do you call it? As like one of the older ones. Anyway, in year 11 and 12 as a senior, I was like, oh, sweet, I'll go to uni and be a high school PE teacher. Yeah. And then in my head, I always had in my mind, I'll do that and I can always fall back on it. Sweet. Growing up, hated the fact that I was a girl. I always wanted to be a boy. I thought it was super unfair, but I was always like, at least I can have kids one day. I was like super maternal.
That's true.
Yeah, it's like weird because that was close to my only feminine trait as a kid. I was like, oh, at least I can have kids one day. So then when I sort of transitioned and got older and thought about my career, for some reason I still had that in my head. I was like, oh, well, I'll do PE teaching. And when I have babies, I can, you know what I mean? Teaching's a great great career when you've got kids. You know, you can do casual teaching, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I just chose that and I ended up loving it.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up loving teaching a lot more than I sort of thought. A result of having like a really good mentor and someone that I sort of looked up to in terms of my PE teacher, and then went to uni, and uni was a little bit like school for me. I was like, this is fun. Get the work done, no dramas, just like socialize. And then when I started teaching, I was like, this is sick. I loved it.
That is good. 16 weeks a year, holidays.
Mate, it's that good. I only taught for the first 12 months. So straight out of uni, I got a job straight away, like a high school in Cronulla.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like, of course, that was going to be fun because it's a great demographic, so the kids are all good. Yeah. Piece of piss. So I had a ton of fun. I did a 12-month block, and after that I went to casual teaching because I was playing footy and I had to go to this camp and do that. So I just sort of pop in. I'd be like, oh, guys, I can work Monday, Tuesday and Thursday this week. No worries. We'll see you then. Come on in, and then just play footy for the rest of it. It was so good.
That is good. It's good that you're able to keep doing things you enjoyed doing. So you're enjoying doing teaching. You're enjoying with the rugby kicking off as well. That taken to where it is. You know, but to do that as well, you did more than just the playing. So you you started to recognise early the brand that was you in some respects. What was that like?
It's sort of something that came across. I didn't necessarily realise it was coming, to be fair. So like a very quick history, when I started playing league again as an adult, that was the year I played, so I just played club footy and then got picked in the Origin squad, I guess, played Origin, and then from that got picked to play for the Jillaroos, so for Australia. And that Jillaroos game was the first women's rugby league game ever televised. So women's rugby league went from having stuff all traction from anyone sort of outside to got some attention, and it took off like quite quickly. So I guess I was involved during that period where there was a fair bit of traction. I ended up, there were a few of us, mind you, but ended up, in the papers after it. And even when we were over in New Zealand, got, during the games was doing like the halftime interviews or the post-game interviews. And I'm like this kid that loves footy, right? I'm like, I'm finally back playing footy. So they'd be asking me about the game. I'd be like, yeah, it was so good. Like, I had a massive grin on my face. We beat the Kiwis. So I'm just talking about footy. I'm like loving it. And yeah, I don't know. So anyway, so I sort of just naturally got a little bit of traction as the game did. And opportunities came that way. And that was when I realized there was actually, this is like a 3-minute story. Do you want me to tell you the story? There was a moment where I was like, this is actually quite big in terms of what we can do and what I can sort of do. So after being in New Zealand and playing in the first women's games that were televised, I got asked to come on. It was a show on Channel 9 and Fox when we came back to speak about Women's Rugby League. More people ended up watching it than they thought. They wanted one of the girls on the show. And they asked me and I said, no chance in hell. It was my worst nightmare. I only ever let like my mum and dad come and watch me play footy. Like I hate the attention, don't like having birthdays, just played like footy because I love it. The post-game interviews caught me off guard because I'm literally walking out. I'm like, that was so good, like just thriving. But if it had been planned before the game, I'd be like, no, someone else can do it. Like I just want to play footy. Yeah. Anyway,
how good is it seeing old interviews like of yourself talking?
Oh my gosh, I literally looked like just little 12-year-old kid. Like, I wasn't. I was 20 something, but I was thriving. But yeah, anyway, as a result of that, I got asked to come on a couple of shows. Said no to the point where they were like, oh, we don't think she's going to do it. And they were like, she's got to do it. So they ended up speaking to my parents, and I can't say no to my dad because I just think the sun shines out of his butt to this day. He's like, look, mate, you've always given everything a crack. Why don't you try it once? If you hate it as much as you think you're going to hate it, no dramas. Then you can tell them no. But you've actually never done it before. And I was like, oh, damn it. Okay, so I said yes, shitting myself. The whole time, it was Channel 9, went on the Old School Footy show. Yeah. Felt like my heart was beating out of my chest, hated every minute of it. Spoke about, like, because it was talking about myself too, like, and my team, but, you know, they had clips of me playing over there. It was just worst case scenario. Hated it as much as I thought I was going to hate it. Went to Woolies the next day. This was when I was living in Cronulla. I went to that little Woolies in the mall. And I remember walking down aisle 4. I can remember it as well as anything. And this random bloke came up to me. He said, oh, Allana, I saw you on the footy show last night. Instantly, heart dropped. This is my worst nightmare. He's like, oh, well, I love watching like the clips. We didn't watch the games, but I love watching that. My daughter's been asking me to play rugby league for years. I'm going to let her play now.
Oh, how good.
And I was like, I literally have goosebumps right now. I was like, stop it. There's a kid out there that might potentially love footy as much as I do. She was never allowed to play. Yeah. And she's allowed to play league now. So that was the perspective for me, and I had to hold on to that for years because I was so uncomfortable with my job for so long. And I always had to change my perspective on, look, don't make it about myself. And my dad helped me so much, my parents. But he's like, don't think about yourself in this scenario and you being uncomfortable being the spotlight. Think about what you're actually doing for other people. Yeah, the impact you're having. I swear to God, I had to think about that every single time on the way to and the way home from work and anything from there on for so long because I was so uncomfortable with it. But knowing that there was a kid out there, a little girl that was allowed to play footy because they saw me trying to run rings around the Kiwis, which I certainly didn't. I was half the size I am now. But yeah, that was just the best thing ever. And it helped me so much. Yeah. And that fueled then I wouldn't even say an interest, but that fueled you then to start to recognise the role that you could have in supporting others. Yeah, it made me realise that I need to not be so self-absorbed to don't worry about me being uncomfortable when it can have a positive impact on someone else. Yeah, fine. And like, it's just like, I just don't like being in like any kind of spotlight, like avoided a wedding, don't like birthdays, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm happy to go to everyone else's and like pump them up. I just don't personally like it. But yeah, it was just, you know what, it's not all about you. Think about other ways you can sort of look at it. And at the end of the day, like my job now, love it. I get to talk about footy with people that are my mates now. Like, it's awesome. But the idea of it still makes me really uncomfortable. That mindset shift. But it's just, don't make it about me. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That is good. I mean, but that's what gives you confidence then to do the speaking. Do you think then, as a TV personality as you are now, do you think you'd have done anything differently to get to that spot? Would you have trained differently, done different courses, done things in a different way? Nah, I'm pretty like easygoing. Like, I've always I'm 100% into whatever I'm doing. Like, I'll pour everything into whatever I'm doing. But no, like, I'm like, I know that there's something else around the corner if it doesn't work out. To be fair, like, other than injuries, it's all sort of been fine. Even with my jobs now, if I've got a contract coming up, because I'm like contracted as well, I'm like, at the end of the day, like, if they don't want me or if something goes wrong, I'm a teacher. Like, I can go back and teach. It's all good. So I think that certainly works in my favor, but easygoing. But if I'm in, like, I'm all in. Yeah. No, but that's good. Now, for you though, that transition coming out, you know, thinking about going all in. Yeah. You're stopping your football career, it ends. You found yourself moving into mortgage broking. What was that like for you?
Yeah.
Quite different.
Yeah, it was. So in that last year, I was trying to get a deal off the Dragons, and they sort of were saying, no, there's nothing there now. There may be. There wasn't. There will be. It was like, there may be. And then an opportunity come up in the commercial team as well, which was going to be like a 3-day-a-week job, which I'm still doing now.
Yeah.
And I sort of had to make a decision. Do I, hang around like a bad fart and hopefully get a deal at the end of the year, or then I'm left going, like, I could have turned that job down, and I was like, you know what, I just got to bite the bullet. So I decided to call it, and I had my mortgage broken, which for sort of the last few years of my career, I'd been going in with my Unite partner Jaden, my mate Tony, and I don't know if I just went there to socialise, but they were doing mortgages, so I was around the industry.
Yeah. But you see, do you know what I love about that? What's really clear for you is it was the environment.
Yeah.
So there were good people that were there.
Yeah.
Mortgage broken, having a laugh, whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
But you found that right cultural fit.
And I touched on the corporate feel there earlier on, and well, mate Tony, he had like, what do you call it? Like, there was like 3 or 4 boys in the office. So, and then I sort of understood you go out and meet people for coffee and be more social, which I love, and networking. So, I thought this is going to be easy. Retired, enjoyed myself in the off season. November 1, I go in 9 o'clock. Yeah. About 9:20, I'm like, all right, I'm done. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I had no work and I was essentially self-employed from the start. I wasn't, comfortable. Like, I was messaging my mates going, anyone need a home loan? So that was sort of my first couple of months. I got a couple of loans that I settled. Anyway, I get to probably the end of January, and my mate Tony said he's leaving mortgage broken. So I had to find another job. COVID hits, and I had a fair amount of money in the stock market as well. That fell off a cliff when COVID hit. So then I just went into, it was a really tough period. That transition ended up being really tough. What
was tough?
Well, I didn't have a job with the mortgage broken. I was stuck at home. But the positive was I was able to homeschool my little boy. My daughter got sent to daycare every day because she was too mad to look after at home.
See you, sis.
She was out. So the family side of it was good, but in terms of being busy, I love being not busy. I love achieving and doing stuff.
Kind of that.
And
structure.
I'm very goal orientated structure. Still training. But that first, like, sort of, mate, until the end of January, I thought I was on a rocket ship. And then, 2 or 3 things fully changed my trajectory that year in terms of my investments, my work life. Anyway, I ended up changing business to LCI. I was doing mortgage broken there, and I was not enjoying it. So I got to the end of the year, and then that's when I found Oxygen Home Loans, which I ended up being with them till, I'm still currently a credit rep and transition away to Unite. That was tough. Like, the building my own day, having structure in my day, and I'm very routine orientated. Like, I have a Robin Sharma weekly planner, so I write my meetings on it at home when I'm training. If the kids have stuff on, I'm very, very structured. And even recently I asked like a heap of close people for like a positive and like a few negatives on my personality. And a few people said, you're way too structured. But I love having that structure in my day. And something even happened the other day where my mate asked me to come over and hang out and stay the night.
Sorry,
and
mate, it's not on the calendar.
It really rattled me. I'm like, man, I'm going to have to wait.
My brother's like that. I don't get that,
do you find the structure?
I'm structured because I feel like if I don't write it down and plan it in, I can't get it all done. But I'm also not structured to the sense I can go outside it. Like if I've got like spare time, what a novelty. But I'm happy to go with the flow. But I just need to see it all like same thing. You got kids, you need to go X, Y, and Z. You got this appointment to fit in. You've got these work commitments. Training. I'm the same. Got to train at the same time every day. But that's when everyone else is asleep anyway. But if someone threw a spanner in the works, I could love that. Sign me up. Give me more.
Really? Yeah. And because I have like a morning routine I do as well, like gratitude journal, meditate. Review my goals every day.
Did you do this
every day?
Did you do that
I spend about an hour a morning.
As a player,
no,
did you do that?
I wish I did all this because my happiness now is 11 out of 10, and it's to do. Like, I went out to Bathurst on the weekend and didn't do my normal morning routine for 2 days. And as our friend Jade can say, I was a bit off on the Monday, and I reckon it was to do with that and being out of routine. Wow. Yeah.
What do you mean your goals every day? Just daily goals?
No. Like my 6-month goals, my 12-month goals, my life goals.
Every day.
I look at my values. And then I always finish it. I have a coffee, lemon water. I might train or come back and do it after I train. But I've just built this structure in my day. I'm still working on my work structure with Ryan, which he's helping me with. But
he's like, you're not structured at all. Turn it up.
I'm just staying quiet at this time. I'm like, okay, all right, that's good.
I'll get better. But I'm easily but I'm also easily distracted as well.
Who isn't?
Yeah. But so thinking then, I asked you there, had you brought that in as a player, what that different, I
would have been way better.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if I had the routine in my morning, because we got told where to be at what time. So you need to be here at 6 o'clock. You're going to stretch and do your prep. Then we're going to be we're going to do video. So you do stretch and get prepped. Then you go up and do video for an hour. I could walk out, old man, I couldn't even move. So then you have to get warm again. Then you're on the field. Then you're going to have lunch. Then you're going to do weights. Then you're going to go home.
Yeah.
So then you go home, and I had no structure then. Like I could have been working on self-development.
Yeah.
Days off, I'd always try and have something to go. Like I mentioned, I was doing the mortgage broken. So I was always trying to do something personal development. But
so when you look back, and I guess it's for both of you, when you look back then at your career, thinking about perhaps the transition to life to where you are today, what do you think what would you've done differently, do you think, to perhaps to set you up better for your life after sport?
I feel like, to be honest, playing sport when I did, I was set up because I had to be. It might be a little bit more relevant to Lats, but like we didn't get I think we got like match payments or camp payments or something for playing Origin and Gillaroos, but you're still at a loss from what your normal job would be. So and also my career where I am now, I was never going. The alternative would have been to go to uni and do a journalism degree. That would never have interested me like whatsoever. So I don't know. I just think in terms of my setup, it probably I wouldn't have changed much because I knew I wanted to do something in sport. Ended up doing teaching, loved it, and then it just sort of evolved the way it did. Because I said to my boss actually maybe a year or two in, what should I do? Like I want to get better. I was pissed off because I didn't enjoy it, and I was like, I'm used to playing footy where if I don't get better at every game, then I'm off it. Like I want to, you know what I mean? So, and I approached my work the same way, like being on telly doing whatever the show was. If I wasn't better the next week, I was filthy at myself. So I spoke to him and I was like, I want to get better. Like, is there a degree I can do? Is there a course I can do? And he basically said, no, mate, it's sink or float. Like, you're already here. No degree is going to help you now. You just need to learn on the job and take advice from people as it sort of comes. But yeah, I literally got told it's sink or float.
Which it kind of is, right?
Mate, full on, yeah. I was doing my first job at Channel 9 as opposed to just doing random shows and you just get paid per appearance. The following 12 months, my first role was there were 2 women, female players. There were 2 of us and we went on the Sunday footy show and we did alternate Sundays. Yep. And about halfway through the year, they were like, it'll only be one of you next year. Like, sweet, okay.
That competition, that contract kicks back in again.
Full on. I was like, okay, welcome to TV. This is heavy.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate at least the honesty of knowing that. Yeah. It's what I'm used to. Like, as I said, I grew up playing footy with the boys. I've always had male coaches and I've had brothers. So I'm quite black and white in terms of information. It's something that I think a lot of coaches struggle with, that they've spoken about struggling with coaching women's sport, is that women are obviously so different. And I'm obviously female to a degree, but growing up in a man's world, I think I learned how to accept a lot of those, like just values and that sort of how I was growing up. So I'm not super precious in terms of, I'd just rather know the truth. Yeah. Like if I'm shit at something, tell me, I'll work on it and we can go from there. Yeah. As opposed to I don't have to be, like nurtured in the way I'm told, I guess.
You don't need that. Don't be gentle. Just
and it was a bit the same in going into commentary because I was on a show. Being on a 2-hour show is so different to being in the commentary team for a game. Right. So a show, 2 hours, you've got so much time to speak about whatever you want. Really, you cover all the games, you analyse them still, but you've got time up your sleeve. Whereas you talk about Thursday, Friday night footy, you've got 2 segments before kickoff, you've got 1 touch, you've got 37 seconds to hit it. There might be vision, someone's talking to you in your ear, the host asks you a question. The crowd's noisy, like there's a lot going on. And they're like, wrap it up in 10 seconds. You're like, fucking long 10 seconds, I don't know. And like, stop talking to me when I'm trying to talk. Like it's full on. But yeah, same thing. Like my one of my bosses at the time called me and said, hey, what are you doing on Thursday? Yeah. And I was like, oh, teaching, why? What's going on? He's like, well, do you want to do Thursday night footy? And I was like, yes, I want to do
Wow.
Thursday night footy. Let's
Yeah.
go. And I was like,
Good.
what does that mean? Does that mean I'm on the comment? Like, am I commentating now? He's like, well, we'll see after Thursday if we ask you back. I was like, okay, sweet.
Okay. Very much a try.
No worries. But
Yeah.
the same
Perform.
thing. Like, yeah, 100% pressure's on.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah. And I guess you thrive under that pressure.
I got asked back.
Still getting
Yeah, you got-
On
back.
Thursday,
Well,
Friday night footy, baby. Yeah,
it.
5 years down the track. Phew.
No, well, that's good. No, so when you think about what could you have done to better prepare you for where you are today?
Yeah. So first, I'll start with I wouldn't change anything in one sense, because everything has happened for a reason to get me where I am, and everything has really taken shape for me in the last sort of 6 to 12 months. But second to that, I always try and in the last couple of years as well, I've sort of had a mentality to try and get 1% better every day.
Yeah.
So I wish I maybe had that back in when I was playing footy.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I worked hard. I did a lot of the things right, but there was some days I'd fall off a cliff. So maybe I was only getting better 4 to 5% better a week instead of 6 to 7%. But my main thing, because I did all the education stuff, I did that really well.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and this is what I talk to current players. When you have events with the club sponsors, they love rugby league and they want to talk to the boys, but sometimes there's, I don't know if it's, hang with the boys in the corner because you're comfortable. But I wish I was a bit more proactive and got out and spoke to every single person who sponsored the football club, because they want to help
I'm
the
like
boys.
that. I'd rather be in the corner with the one person that I know. Like, I'm uncomfortable like that.
Yeah.
If someone wants to come up and talk to me, happy as Larry. But I am a bit shy to that degree where putting myself out there.
Yeah.
It's not because I don't.
challenge.
It's not because I don't want to. I don't know what it is. It's like not because you want to share whatever your company, or just I feel a little bit awkward in those scenarios. Still to this day. I mean, we have so many lunches and charity things. I'm happy as Larry to stay on my table. But if someone comes over, great. Or we want you to meet this person, could talk to them for 20 minutes. I'm just pretty poor at initiating those conversations.
And it is common, certainly for a lot of athletes, find it difficult in that room with all these people who kind of come from a different world. It's like they're in this corporate world, they're over there.
But they love rugby league.
They love it.
They're there
100%.
because they love rugby league.
Yeah.
So now with Unite, that's my job, getting out and talking to people, and I'll be wearing my Victor shirt out to see all the sponos. Put me goggles on.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
I
think it's good.
It's a good conversation starter, the goggles.
It is. I mean, so I've been thinking about the goggles. You think about yourself, you stepping out. You say a lot of these corporates, they love the game. You find yourself in the game. Something like the goggles that you were part of creating, something very innovative in the marketplace. Where would something like that come about?
So how did this whole idea come about? Yeah. So me, Jaden and Luke initially started Unite. Jaden's best mates with Victor Radley. Victor has a great following. He's the people's champ. I think that all started back when he won the comps. He was talking about getting on the beers. So personality, and what we're looking to do at Unite is leverage, the boys use their brand to monetize that. So with Victor, it was building shirts, and he did a few other products, which it was psycho how many sales he got in like 48 hours. But
I guess that demonstrates, I suppose, the strength of an athlete's brand. So as they become quite famous and they get that moment, Allana, you spoke about being interviewed as you came off the field on that first televised game. That helped position you into a sport where you were ready to take that opportunity. And so here you're talking about, is that something you see as growing for athletes?
Massively. With both social media, players are now more open to doing that. We're also working with James Fisher-Harris and Moses Leota, the Bash Bros, because they've obviously won the last 3 premierships. They are the Bash Bros. They're the 2 best front rowers in the competition. So, they're now leveraging the brands they've built through their character on the field, but more so off it. They're great guys. They're family men. But then they cross that line and they're brutal. They're open to doing merch, and we help facilitate that. So, in a few years, if they want to go, well, now that Fish is going over to New Zealand, but they still play for the Kiwis together, they can run that brand themselves. We teach them how to run the brand, give them all the background information, and then they can then monetize that into the future. And then with this, that was Luke Lewis's idea.
That was a ripper.
Yeah, that was
So
great.
good.
But there was so many things had to fall into place.
Yeah.
One, Nathan Cleary
Had
coming
to
in the
win.
second half and getting the job done. But
Yeah.
it's crazy. And me, Louis, and Jaden were on the phone all night that night.
Yeah.
It was definitely a massive pinch yourself moment. And in terms of awareness and eyes, that really helped build the Unite brand.
Do you know what's fascinating about both of you and the stories you're telling? Although coming from different paths into the game, you were both able to take opportunities and get yourselves in that right spot as the opportunities came about, with the view of then saying, right, well, how can you use it? In fact, how can you just sort of follow your nose and see what comes next?
Yeah, no, definitely. And even with Allana, with her TV opportunity, and then being aligned with us at Unite, that's what rugby league does. It opens doors, and people want to be around rugby league players.
Yeah.
So
People want to be around athletes.
Yeah, athletes.
Whether rugby league or otherwise.
Athletes.
Yeah, I think it's that passion or that thing around sport.
Yeah.
That often when you're in the game, you don't quite recognize how much fans, how much of the companies enjoy watching it, that entertainment. You see it as
The
a job.
boys and now the girls, you're so sheltered. Like you think it's just you in your little environment.
Yeah.
But there's a big whole world out there that the rugby league landscape is large, and often.
It helps. I think sport helps people survive, and what sometimes we as players don't realize, because you are in that environment and you are, it's just so compact. Is that it? People don't even have to be playing the game to rely heavily on it. You know what I mean? Like sport means so much to people. All the time we speak about how it brings people together.
Yeah.
We saw that through COVID.
I think during COVID was such a fascinating thing for everyone to, 100%. And to realize how much we sort of rely on it for mental health, for motivation, for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like off season for the footy, it's sweet for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, I hate cricket, Like I'm off
Let's watch
it.
something else. We got to keep
what
going.
are we doing? 100%. But it brings people together. It means that, you might have mates coming over and you watch the footy with them. You could never have played a game of rugby league in your life. It doesn't matter. You love it. Like the boys or whoever it is, mind you, but sometimes, typically, it might be the blokes who are watching the footy and then the chicks are having a wine. Like, whatever. Who cares? It brings people together to be able to enjoy the same thing. And I think that's something that we realised during COVID, how important sport is. And sometimes as a player, you forget because you're in that little world and your teammates are your life and they're your best mates. But outside of it, it's so much bigger than you. And that's what you have to constantly be reminded of. And that's why brands like Unite are so important to remind you of that. Like I'm very fortunate when you speak about opportunities and making the most of them. I think we certainly have. Yeah. But the influence from my parents was the reason I've made the most of my opportunities. Yeah. It's those constant reminders. It's you're very motivated, give things a crack, then see what happens. But like the opportunities are there for you to take them, see where they go. If you're invested in it, if you love it, let's go. Yeah. But I think that's what the boys are doing so well at Unite is just reminding people, not everyone, I'm sure not everyone's had a similar upbringing or maybe constantly being reminded of those things. And when they are, it's like little bit of a no-brainer. They're like, didn't think about that. It's a good point.
No, you mentioned not forget, athletes or players forgetting the impact that they have. With the growth of the women's game, and both of you give back to the sport, to individuals. With the growth of the women's game, I'm guessing that female players are going to come to you. They're going to chat to you for advice or guidance. What can they do to make sure they don't forget as the game becomes more and more professional? What can they do to perhaps be prepared for the opportunities as they arise?
I think conversations are really important. Like as you said, I'm so happy. I've still got so many mates that play sport, but even I've had women reach out from completely different codes, like some cricketers, AFLW players that have reached out to me for advice. And look, I don't know everything. I'm just fortunate enough of timing when I was going through and playing. I was lucky with a few things. Obviously, I've landed on my feet in terms of being in the commentary teams for league and rugby. And I want to help anyone and everyone I possibly can. So I'm so open to sharing my experiences, but also, things that I could have and certainly would have done different along the way. I think the biggest thing is it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're playing sport, if you're looking to venture outside of that, it's make the most of the relationships that you've got and you can learn something from everyone. Like you might have a coach that if you're playing, you might have a coach that you think is useless, doesn't know the game, got nothing, but they'll still have one thing that can help you. And I think that's something that you can think about in every aspect of your life. Everyone's got something to offer you. And sometimes at the end of the day, it might be how not to do something, but everyone's got something to offer you. So if you're open to learning from everyone, then you're going to be ahead every day of the week.
Yeah.
That's such good advice, and because I think sometimes, you need to listen to the people who have got the runs on the board, so to say, like the older players in a playing group, because they've been through most stuff. And just coming back to the Unite stuff and the advisory side of it, like when I was a player, I had a few properties and we got advice off someone who wasn't very good at advising, and we lost about 70k on a property. Right. And I only found, LCI after rugby league, and if I had them in my corner when I was playing sport,
me too.
I would be in a totally different financial position.
100%.
And even like when I mentioned I lost a fair bit of money on the stock market because I was so emotionally invested and I had no one advising me. So I think, having these people around you while you're playing and while you're young, they can give you the right advice, because unfortunately, even now, I don't know everything. I've handed over all my investing stuff now, and not have that emotional attachment. Right. Because when you're emotionally attached, and property has that emotional attachment as well, I reckon. Whereas if someone's like, buy, sell, do this, at least you can blame someone if it's bad advice. But I think it's a really important role to play in sport.
That right team in your corner.
Because you got player managers, but essentially there's no one, especially even like what we have here at Unite, helping with all that stuff. So there's the brand stuff, there's the advisory, which can help players when they do retire. They can have the freedom to, if they want to go on TV and be a commentator, they can. If they want to go surfing down the coast, they can. It's freedom of choice.
Yeah. Now, listen, that's really good. And I got to say thanks for sharing your time for this conversation right now. I mean, what I really take away, from yourselves today is I think about, to support you with that transition, there's at least 4 things. There's probably more, but there are 4 things that you've really mentioned. One is that environment or that team structure. So having people to support and advise you on field and off field as you're going through your career. You've both continued to learn. So there's that, be it academic or be it just that desire to learn from others, from what you're doing, taking the most out of each of those experiences. Again, I think is quite powerful. That next bit then is definitely on the networking. So both of you spoke about, coming up with friends who you trained with, who changed clubs, who then made it easier for you throughout your career, both athletically and now sort of off the field. And I think the last bit, the 4th bit, is that readiness for opportunity. You might have needed a little nudge, like from your dad telling you, get in there, you're going on. But that little nudge, or from a friend pulling you in. But you're both then taking advantage of that opportunity, recognizing that, I suppose, the sport or the athleticism that made you good in sport, if you take an opportunity off the field, if you back yourself, that's probably going to come good as well.
100%.
So, So I just got to say thanks again for joining me on the show. It's been absolutely brilliant to hear your story and get your tips. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Ryan.